Hey guys, Karan from Moby Scrub here, and I'll be reviewing the Samsung Galaxy On8. The On series of Samsung essentially belongs to mid-range level of Android smartphones that offer not great but decent performance at a decent price point. The Galaxy On8 has launched for 16,990 rupees in India, which is definitely a decent price point, but is it worth that price is something that we need to evaluate. But first, let's quickly unbox the device and see what all we've got. So that's the Galaxy On8. We're going to come back to that, and let's just dig into the box for now. The quick start guide, so that's just a little bit of documentation, keeping that aside. Then there is the regular charger. I'm sure it's not a fast charger. Samsung doesn't do that in this price range. Yep, so it's a regular charger. Then you've got your USB 2.0 data syncing and charging cable, and very regular earphones into the box, and your ejection pin. So that's about it. So that's the Galaxy On8 right in front of you guys, and it looks very typically Samsung's mid-range devices. Quickly running through the specifications of the device, the On8 comes with Android 8 Oreo running Samsung's latest Experience version 9. It is powered by a Snapdragon 450 processor, which is an octa-core processor clocked at 1.8 GHz. It comes with 4 GB of RAM and 64 GB of internal storage, and from about that 64, 50 GB of storage is available for the user to use. You get a dual camera setup, a 6-inch Super AMOLED display, 3500 mAh battery, chat over video functionality, a dual SIM tray with support for microSD card, up to 256 gigs in storage, and all of this packed in a premium polycarbonate unibody. Let's get into more detailed review, starting with the build of the phone. It's got a 2.5D glass in the front and a plastic-like rear panel, which is a very signature Samsung device look for its mid-range devices. The Galaxy On8 is no exception to that. While it does not look as glossy and classy as some of its competitors that offer glass and metallic backs, it does ensure that the device is lightweight. It has a soft matte finish and it feels quite smooth, and it's also less prone to fingerprint smudging. You get an appropriately placed fingerprint sensor right below the dual camera setup. It's really easy to reach, and obviously it works just fine. microUSB port at the bottom for data syncing and charging, but we would have loved to see a Type-C port over there. Again, no quick charging as well. A 16 megapixel camera in the front, and it comes with an LED flash, which I think is pretty cool. From an ergonomic standpoint, I do find the phone slightly wide to grip, but then again, if you want a nice big display, I guess that's the price you pay. Nevertheless, you'll get used to it. On the side, you have your first slot, which takes in your first SIM card, and another slot that takes the second SIM as well as a microSD card for up to 256 gigs in storage. The overall design in the front sports Samsung's Infinity display, which brings an 18.5:9 viewing ratio. Now, while it might be called Infinity, it doesn't mean truly bezel-less. If you look at the chin and the forehead, it's quite significant compared to some other phones in this category. But nevertheless, you get a pretty immersive experience given it's a 6-inch display. Now let's talk about the software, and then we can move on to the display and performance. The On8 comes with Android 8 Oreo right out of the box and has the latest Samsung Experience version 9 layered on the OS. It doesn't look like this phone will be upgradable to Android P, so just keep that in mind. Samsung has been quite smart with what apps to preload, and it keeps to a bare minimum, giving you the option to install whatever you want. While the screen animations and transitions are smooth, and keeping the price point in mind, I guess it performs decently well. But let's talk about performance later in the video ahead. The On8 also offers certain camera features, which we will talk more about, when we discuss the camera in detail. There's also Bixby Home, which gives you quick access to popular functions that you perform on your phone, and also aggregates content from various social media networks and puts them all in one place, including your reminders, your alarms, calendar schedules, and important web pages. Coming over to the display, you get a massive 6-inch Super AMOLED display with a resolution of 720 by 1480 pixels. Now, the side bezels are really thin, so you get a nice 18.5:9 screen ratio. The good thing is that it's Super AMOLED, and hence you get really punchy, saturated, vivid colors on the screen with deep blacks, along with the fact that a low-resolution display will make sure that your battery lasts really long. On the downside, the display is obviously not sharp and has a very low pixel density. So while you can play 720p HD videos, you cannot stream full HD videos on YouTube. Also, even while playing games, you will not experience a very sharp experience. Games will look slightly pixelated, and that can bring down the experience. In addition to being a colorful display, the screen is also very bright. It has an outdoor mode which can be manually enabled in case you're in bright sunlight conditions and finding it a little difficult to read. Unfortunately, there is no auto brightness mode, which is again a little disappointing. So overall, a beautiful looking display, but the low resolution does bring down the experience as you don't get to play games and videos in their full resolution. There is also no way to alter the resolution of the display or to make any tweaks in terms of screen temperature and color range. There is also no always on display. Coming down to the performance of the device, I've already said that it's powered by a Snapdragon 450, which is at best a decent performer clocked at 1.8 GHz. The device comes with 4 GB of onboard RAM, which is fine for a mid-range processor as the 450. The benchmark scores are quite low as compared to some other devices in this category, and even when compared to some entry-level smartphones. Honor Play is probably the best performer per rupee, now that it comes with GPU Turbo, which has immensely improved performance of the device. I did test out a couple of games like Asphalt 9, which is an HD game, and Modern Combat. Now the Asphalt 9 played pretty well, I mean no lag really, but I think it's really the display resolution. The processor is doing just fine to optimize the gameplay, but it's doing so at the cost of, detail, and that kind of brings the experience down. Overall, the performance of the device in absolute terms is alright, but when you look at it in relative terms, comparing it to devices from other manufacturers, it does lag significantly at the same price point, and I think that's a big deal. And finally, coming to the camera, the On8 features a dual camera setup at the back. The primary lens is a 16 megapixel shooter with f1.7 aperture, and the secondary lens is a 5 megapixel shooter with f1.9, which is essentially required for depth of field photos. The front camera is an impressive 16 megapixel lens and comes with an LED flash. The camera software features a couple of modes that you can use to take pictures. You've got the Pro mode, the Beauty mode, Panorama, Night mode, and Continuous Shot. The On8 can shoot Full HD videos at 30 FPS, which is again not impressive given most other devices in this price range can shoot 4K. The phone does support live focus, so you can take some impressive depth of field shots, and there are some new features like portrait dolly and portrait backdrops that you can apply on pictures. And here are a few samples that I quickly took to give you some understanding of the quality of the photos that the Galaxy On8 can take. And I think it's just about decent. It will get the job done, but don't expect very impressive pictures. It's obviously an average camera and it'll do well as long as the lighting in your scenario is good. And here are also a couple of live focus shots that I took which blur out the background. I think those came out pretty well both indoors and outdoors. Overall, I believe the mid-range segment is being redefined with devices from all manufacturers, challenging the limits of the device and pushing as much performance and features in display and camera to give maximum value to users. The Galaxy On8, with its massive display, beautiful AMOLED screen, enhanced UI features, does satisfy some needs, and to that, the device definitely has a lot of reliability and trust that Samsung can deliver, and that is very important as well, but it still does not compare to the performance and the value that other devices can deliver at this price point, and that's something to think about.